Home sales will drop to their lowest level since 2011. That is one of 11 predictions Redfin has for the 2023 housing market. I'm going to break down the four I think that are most pertinent to you as a future homeowner. But what do you think the leading cause is for that first prediction? Is it A, supply chain restraints, B, interest rates, 3, sensational headlines, or 4, the upcoming election? Let's go. Welcome back to House Rich, the first time homebuyer show where we help millennials figure out how in the world do I buy my first home. Today we're breaking down Redfin's 11 predictions for the 2023 housing market, or really just 4 of them. If you want to see all 11, they're down in the description, and so will the link be to the article. So number 1, home prices will fall to their lowest level since 2011. You've probably seen that headline, but you haven't seen the second part of that prediction, right? It also goes, with a slow recovery in the second half of the year. Redfin thinks that home sales will decline about 16% from 2022 to 2023. And so that's the number of homes that are sold in that calendar year, down to about 4.3 million. But for a little perspective, don't forget that the first third of 2022, the housing market was still on fire. The Federal Reserve didn't start raising interest rates until about the March-April timeframe. So at that point, home prices were high, but interest rates were still in the low 3s. So people were still scooping up homes. So for a little perspective, because the housing market is down right now, but don't forget, the housing market was still very strong in the first bit of 2022. And so naturally, what's the reason for the decline in home sales from 2022 to 2023? It's interest rates. Interest rates are high and home prices are still high. There's also the potential recession. I feel like we've been talking about a recession for the last year and a half. But here's the thing, perception is reality for a lot of people. So if folks think a recession is coming, they're going to maneuver like a recession is coming, whether it's happening or not. And as another point of reference, this is down about 30% from the red hot all year housing market of 2021. So let's break down what Redfin thinks will happen quarter per quarter in 2023. So they think in the first quarter of 2023, home sales will be down about 31% year over year. For Q2 and Q3, they think it'll be down a little bit. They didn't give an actual number. But here's the other part. In Q4, they think the home sales will flatten out year over year in the fourth quarter. So what's happening this quarter, 2022, is the same thing they think will happen as far as demand in 2023. So what are we experiencing right now is something called the lock-in effect, right? So people that bought homes in 2021, 2020, or any time before like March 2022, they have a interest rate that's probably 2, 3, sometimes 4% lower than it is right now. So they're locked into their current home purchase. So even if they're in a position where they may want to upgrade their living position, they don't want to get rid of their low interest rate. And so there's also people that are still enamored by the 2 and 3% interest rates. That is a blip on the radar number wise. But they're like, hey man, I don't want to buy now because rates are so high. They're 6, 7%. So they're staying on the sidelines as well. Even though historically a good rate, once again, is somewhere between like a 4 and 5% historically. But those people are kind of still enamored by those 2 and 3% interest rates. So they're just like, I'm going to rent until I figure out what's going on with the rates, until they kind of come down to what I think is a good rate for me to buy at. These are Redfin's bull and bear predictions. So their bull prediction, the best case scenario, is that only a 12% decline in home prices. So even in the best case scenario, they see home sales still going down 12%. In their worst case scenario, they predict maybe a 27% decline. And so why the difference in the good and bad scenario is basically if inflation gets under control quicker, 12%. Inflation goes bananas, 27%. Prediction number 2, rates will drop below 6% in Q4 2023. So they're saying that rates will drop to about 5.8% in Q4, but the overall prediction for the average rate in 2023 is about 6.1%. And so this is the prediction I've seen from many sources. I've seen Fannie Mae say rates will be in the low 6s. I've seen Morgan Stanley say rates will be in the low 6s as well. So that seems to be where all the smart money is saying that rates will be in the low 6s for basically the majority of 2023. So just some perspective for you if you're waiting for rates to drop down low to make your purchase in 2023, they'll probably be in the sixes for the time being, with the lowest they get to maybe 5.8 in the end of the year. And so for perspective, I got to give a shout out to Redfin, because I always talk about you guys focusing on your budget instead of the home price. So they did this breakdown on the difference in interest rates. So if you had like a $2,500 budget, they said at like a 6.5 interest rate, where we're at about right now on average, you could purchase a $383,750 home. If rates drop down to 5.8%, you'd be able to afford a $406,250 home with that same $2,500 budget for perspective. And if you were curious, when rates were at 3%, you could afford a home that's $517,000. But rates aren't going back there, but I know folks are curious about what they could have afforded during that kind of great period of 2020, 2021.